on that needs to be on?
I think everybody's here. Well, you know, we have a few that are muted, Mr. Wallmacher, Mr. Venture, but Curtis is here. I think,
Yep.
Okay, Frank, let's
Chairman, I
go.
think if you're ready, you let me know and we can start.
Okay, we're ready.
Commentary.
All set, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Township of Hillsborough Board of Adjustment regular public meeting for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting will be conducted virtually. The public will be given an opportunity to participate remotely through the advertised Zoom link or optional phone numbers identified in the public meeting notice. The public should use the raise hand feature in Zoom or the *9 is participating by telephone to indicate they would like to be recognized to speak. Application documents were made available for inspection at the Township's civic clerk website at least 10 calendar days prior to the scheduled meeting date in accordance with the meeting notice. All board members, staff, and consultants will be participating remotely. Applicants and the professionals will be presenting remotely and will then identify themselves before testifying. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, called the Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting has been provided to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News, to the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board at the Township Municipal Complex, and posted on Township's website. Additional notice has been provided to communicate that this meeting is being conducted according to the Governor's executive orders and pursuant to Public Law 2020 C.11, which allows for meetings to be conducted electronically and pursuant to local finance notices recently established. Tina, would you take the roll call of the members and the professionals?
Yes, Mr. Herbert,
Present.
Mr. Stamler,
Here.
Ms. Haynes,
Here,
Mr. Sirachi,
Here.
Ms. Salili,
Here,
Mr. Valchek,
here.
Mr. Wallmacher, Mr. Wallmacher. Oh, I didn't hear you. Oh, you're on mute, that's why. Mr. Venture,
Here,
Ms. Comfer,
here,
Mr. Gorman,
Present.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Euro,
Here.
and Fred Kinsler, you're here, and I am here.
I am here.
Got it.
Next is consideration of meeting minutes. We have none this evening. Next is consideration of resolutions. We have one, the Pilgrim River File BA 2003. Any board discussion on that? If not, a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
second,
Tina, would you take a roll call on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Sirachi,
Yes.
Ms.
He's
Salili.
not eligible. Wait a minute, hold it.
Well, I have him down on Pilgrim
You do?
River.
Dear Kurt, were you here for that? All right, I may be wrong. I'm sorry.
You ready, Ms. Haynes?
I voted yes, yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
Curtis is not eligible.
He's not?
Not eligible.
Okay. Ms. Salili,
yes,
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Wallmacher.
Yes.
Okay, resolution is.
That's it.
Next is Board of Adjustment business, and we have one thing, our 2020 Board of Adjustment Annual Report. And I know I wanted this, the subcommittee has some inputs from the last page, but are any other discussion on this report?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, and before we do it, I just want to say that the draft copy I had, the miscellaneous item 1, is they actually put 2 things on there. Review the setbacks part should be that actually item 6. That gets put into section item 1.
Yes, that's a good point, Mr. Chair. We made that correction in the report.
Okay, the copy I had didn't. Okay, did I hear a motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second,
Do we need a roll call on this?
No.
No, okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries. Okay, next is board business from the floor. This is for matters not on the agenda. So if anybody in the public has something that want to tell us, this is the time. That's not on the agenda tonight. So Fred, would you open up the lines for the public?
Okay, anybody from the public who would like to have a say on something not on the agenda tonight, please raise your hand. If you're called on, please state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name. Mr. Chairman, I see none, so I think you can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Next is Harvesters Gospel Center, Inc., BA 1922, which was carried from the December meeting. Patrick, you want to address that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So as you know, at the December meeting, we did not finish the testimony provided for the Harvesters application. It was requested by the board with the input from the board attorney and the secretary to carry it to this meeting so we can reschedule it for a date in the future. At the past meeting, a time of extension was granted for March 31st, 2021. I believe the attorney is here, Mr. Ogrodnik, on behalf of the application. It's a recommendation that to the board that we've scheduled for at least tentatively for the March 1st meeting to at least put something on the calendar at this point. Mr. Ogrodnik, it's your application. If you have any further input, the chair is ready or has any further questions, please proceed.
I have no further comment.
And Patrick, I would just add that we have also reserved the second meeting in March to continue with Harvester alone. So that would give them both meetings in March.
It could potentially, yes, and gives us a little bit of safe way. Likely none of us have to travel in snow at this point to potentially to get to a meeting, so that's a good thing. But so one way and one. But yeah, but it gives us an opportunity in the future to try to wrap up the application. Mr. Ogrodnik, do you expect to have an application to the planning office in the near future?
Yes, we do. Mr. Stiers had made a series of alterations to the site plan, reflecting the comments from the board of the last hearing, specifically the fire lane and some amendments to the rear parking area that would reduce or eliminate the impervious coverage variance. I do know Mr. Mensch is here on behalf of the objectors. I would ask that he be permitted to at least make any statement that he wants with respect to the rescheduling or any other comments.
Thank you to the board and Mr. Ogrodnik. Yeah, March 1st is fine. We have no issues with that. Whatever day Mr. Ogrodnik's client's ready and the board's ready, we'll be ready to proceed as well.
And,
Mr. Anderson, Patrick, are we going to require a renotice on this matter?
I think that's to some extent a question that needs to be addressed to Mr. Ogrodnik. If the board does not indicate that it is without further notice, of course, then notice will be required. But perhaps Mr. Ogrodnik knows whether he thinks that his changes will be significant enough so that he needs to renotice anyway.
Yes, I've discussed this with Mr. Gordon offline, and I'd prefer to renotice this application. I just would ask that, the board professionals review my notice so we don't get hung up on anything. Yeah, I'm going to submit a renotice for this application once I get the site plan from Mr. Stiers, our civil engineer, and make sure there's no technical variances that we need to notice for.
Well, I trust Mr. Ogrodnik knows that I always welcome the opportunity to look at notices before they're published. So as he says, there aren't difficulties with it. So I certainly will be glad to help with that. That being Mr. Ogrodnik's position, then the board need not indicate that it's carried without further notice.
and then do I hear a motion to carry to March 1st without notice?
Motion to carry it to March 1st.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. So we'll see you back here on March 1st. Next is our applications for the evening. And what I'd like to do, since Ms. Solelli has to leave, and this is a fee variance, I'd like to move Mr. Wagner up so he can hopefully conclude his case before Ms. Solelli has to leave.
Fine, let's get started.
Okay,
Yes, let's get started with Mr. Wagner.
Patrick, would you introduce file BA 2012, Robert Wagner?
Our first application tonight, Robert Wagner Jr., file number BA 20-12, located at block 207.05, lot 4, otherwise known as 7 Strawberry Lane. The applicant is seeking a D1 use variance and C bulk variances for relief to construct a 24 by 36 two-car detached garage on the property located in the R residential zone. Time of decision 1/29/21.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes, sir.
This is Mike Ogrodnik. I'm gonna assist Mr. Wagner with respect to this D variance.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yep. I just wanted to go over some of the specifics with respect to this parcel. Mr. Wagner is located on 7 Strawberry Lane at block 207.05, lot 4. This is a 1.1 acre parcel in the R residential zone, just to the west of the intersection of Strawberry Lane and Millstone River Road. Currently contains a single family dwelling, sheds, driveway, walkways, and a deck. This is an application to build a detached 17-foot high, 864 square foot garage that will contain 2 bays. This application also proposes the removal of 2 non-conforming sheds to the rear of the property. The planner has indicated that this is an application that necessitates a D1 variance for the addition of the detached garage under ordinance section 188-51. In Hillsborough, as I'm sure you know, only 3 garage bays are permitted, and the property as it currently exists only has a two-bay garage, thereby necessitating a variance for the 4 bays, where only 3 are permitted under section 188-98E, or I'm sorry, 188-51. The applicant is also seeking a C bulk variance under 188-98E1 because of the side yard setback, and the proposed new detached garage is 11 feet, whereas 25.5 feet or 1.5 times the building height of the above ground structures is permitted by ordinance. In this case, the building height is 17 feet. So if you times that by the 1.5, that equals the 25.5 feet. So we need a variance there. With me tonight, I have Mike Ford, Van Cleef Engineering, to go over the existing conditions and the proposed.
Mike, are
Mike,
you there?
if I may, while we're waiting for Mr. Ford, if Bob Wagner talked to the neighbor and had approval from him, and also even with the fire department, that would help, speed this along too, because it looks like a good application. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, my neighbor directly, Suresh, that lives, I guess, to the east of me. He is closest to where this where the property line goes. I personally spoke with him on Saturday. We frequently chat in the yards as we're fixing snow blowers and et cetera. So he did receive the notification. I discussed in detail with him the plan for the garage. If he wanted to see the drawings and stuff like that, he'd have absolutely no problem with it. He was kind of happy that the 2 non-conforming sheds were going to be removed in that. So he had absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I did have the opportunity I did stop and talk to fire safety and ask them, from a residential perspective, approximately how many feet from an existing structure to another structure do they prefer? And I was advised at a minimum of 10 feet. They prefer, obviously in commercial, 25, but in residential, they prefer at least 15. In talking to my architect, the way it's currently scheduled right now, it would be from the corner of the existing house to the start of the new building, approximately 13 feet, the way that it sets right now. So we're within that minimum 10 that fire safety had suggested. And that was just in case they needed to get some men and a ladder to the back of the residence. There was room, not necessarily to get a fire truck back there, but to get individuals to the back of the house.
Thank you.
Mr. Ford?
Hi, Mr. Ford. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Ford, you still have your licenses, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey.
okay, you've testified before this board many times, so we can accept the qualification. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. As was introduced and described by both the attorney and Mr. Wagner, the application is for construction of a detached garage. It's 24 by 36 feet in size for the housing of 2 cars. The detached garage shall also provide for storage space for, accommodating lawn and outdoor maintenance equipment and supplies, thus replacing the 2 existing sheds. Therefore, the existing sheds located in approximately the same location as the proposed detached garage shall be removed. The project shall provide for an attractive structure which has been designed to match and blend into the existing architecture of not only the existing dwelling, but the surrounding community. Other than the fact that this accessory structure can store 2 cars, bringing the total garaging space for housing of cars on the site to 4 total. That's the 2 existing in the existing dwelling plus the detached garage. The structure itself, the detached structure, is a permitted accessory use in the zone. It's only the capacity for housing or garaging of 4 cars total on site that exceeds the code allowable limit for garaging of more than 3 cars on a single lot per section 18851 of the town code. And then also, in addition to that relief, there is a side yard setback relief requested where 11 feet is proposed and 25.5 feet is required. It should be stated and known on the record that the proposed detached garage is for the use of the applicant, resident, the owner, Mr. Wagner's cars only, and not for commercial use. As indicated in Mr. Gorman's January 6, 2021 review regarding.
Do you have the picture of the garage to share?
I can bring it up, yes.
We have that in our packet.
Yeah,
we
it
have
is
the
in the
hard- we have
packet.
the
It's
hard
on the-
copies. I think we're okay. We have the hard copies.
Okay.
The public needs to say.
Here, I can bring it up from the. Right.
I have it in front of me right now on a hard copy.
Yeah.
This bill, by the way.
Mike, can you introduce that as Exhibit A1 and describe it?
All right. Good thing I have 2 screens here.
Mr. Ford, I could probably share it if you need me to.
I think I'm there.
Okay.
Okay, can you see that, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that's the right off the township's civic clerk website. It's the second page of the architectural plans that were provided as part of the application. Sheet 1 is just a plan view. This is a elevation view showing the front elevation facing Strawberry Lane with 2 garage doors, 2 similar side elevations, and then a rear elevation that has another smaller, I'll say garage door, if you will, which is to allow for rear entry access to the structure for the area for the storage of lawn maintenance equipment, as I described earlier.
Very nice.
Okay, so with regards to the D1 variance, we believe and shall demonstrate that this proposed site is uniquely and particularly suited for the detached garage, resulting in a garaging of more than 4 cars. That's because the existing side entry garage attached to the existing dwelling, as I just referenced, is a side entry garage. So those 2 garage doors face the side property line, whereas the proposed condition with the detached garage has 2 garage doors, but they face the road in a different direction. That is the front of the property. The site also has unique characteristics, not only because of these existing structures and the driveway location, but also the grading and topography of the dwelling and driveway. It sits up on a hill high above Strawberry Lane, and it's also, the existing structure is set back substantially further than the minimum required front yard setback in the zone. The proposed garage will be located at the end of the existing driveway that accesses that side entry garage, and right at the end of it, such that it provides for ease access of vehicles without the additional, I'll say, detriment of increased impervious coverage beyond the minimum allowed, permitted, or the maximum permitted in the zone. So there's no variance requested as part of this application for impervious coverage.
And Mike, it also looks like the drainage on this is great also. It doesn't impact the neighbor's yard or anything, right?
That's correct. We'll grade the site such that it directs drainage to the back, away from the neighbor's property. And then also, in the alternative, you consider this, without any relief, the driveway could be extended for parking of 2 vehicles that would be outside, completely visible by the neighbors, as opposed to an attractive structure as is proposed here. And then also, those outdoor vehicles would be susceptible to the weather and not provide for a substantial, enhanced, beautiful structure blending into the neighborhood as is proposed here. With regards to the side yard setback, as Mr. Wagner indicated, not only did him and his architect consider the existing structures, that is the existing driveway and dwelling, placing the garage right at the end of the driveway such that it doesn't have a substantial increase in impervious coverage, but they've also located the detached garage for safety reasons in accordance with the recommendations made by the township's fire marshal staff. That is that 13 feet separation between the existing dwelling and the detached garage. What that results in is the location of this detached garage within 11 feet from the side yard setback or side property line, as opposed to the 25-foot minimum. But we believe that this condition will not have a substantial detriment to the public health, safety, or welfare, or the underlying master plan or the township zoning code. And any detriment that you might consider is outweighed by the added enhancements by resulting in minimal additional impervious coverage, providing for safe and efficient vehicle circulation and access, while also considering the safety recommendations provided by the township's fire safety marshal's staff.
Thank you. I think it's
Taking
good
a deep breath.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So we feel that the application advances the purposes of the municipal land use law, section 4055D2 in two regards. Purpose A, it encourages the appropriate use of land in a manner which promotes the public health, safety, and welfare. That is, it allows for, the applicant to enjoy and maintain his property and his vehicles without an adverse impact on the neighbors. It also provides for a more convenient and safe way to store vehicles and accommodates the turning movements associated with the existing side entry garage. It also, I think, promotes which is the desirable visual environment. Not only does the site have unique characteristics that place this structure in a location such that it's not so easily readily available or visually seen from the neighbors, but also the structure itself provides for a desirable alternative to just the plain outdoor storage of vehicles in some haphazard manner, as well as eliminating the two existing sheds, and also even the potential for a situation where you had outdoor vehicles housed under some temporary structure, like just a tarp tent roof, which would certainly be less visually desirable than the proposed structure you're seeing in the elevation views on the architectural plan. So we find that there's no detriment to the zone plan. The principal use allowed in the zone, the existing dwelling and the associated accessory structure are essentially permitted uses, but for the fact that the total housing or opportunity or capacity for garaging of cars exceeds the 3 maximum allowable by the code. So in summary, I think that this project will benefit the community as well as service the applicant, provide for an attractive way for them to store their equipment and vehicles. It's a more efficient and convenient and safer manner of storing the vehicles, getting them out of the driveway and into a detached garage. It promotes the purposes A and I of the municipal land use laws I described, and I find that there's no substantial detriment to the public good or zone plan. And finally, the benefits of the proposal substantially outweigh any potential susceptible, or in thought detriment by the granting of the relief. And I would argue that the board approve this application.
Any questions from members of the board for this witness?
This is Phil, just one question. I'm assuming that the neighbors have been provided notice that this was something that was being considered?
Yes. In order for us to be, considered for the application today, we provided the required public notice as well as the newspaper notice.
And then I have absolutely no concerns. I think it looks, and I think it would be a definite improvement and good for, for him to be able to use it.
Okay, any questions from the
Frank,
your own?
I have a couple questions about the structure.
I think Fred, you could take the illustration down so we can see each other.
All right, Mr. Ford, could you
Yeah, I'll
stop
take it
sharing that?
down.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Give me a minute
noticed
for
on the
screen
plan,
5 here.
Frank, I noticed on the plan that the garage is 36 feet deep. That's deep enough for 2 cars end to end. Is it intended that more than 2 cars would be stored in the garage at any point?
No, it's really for the tractor, the snow blower, some additional storage that we have here at the house, and then the current garage will be moved to the rear of that. That's why that little side door on the back, just so I can get the tractor and stuff out the back if the cars are parked in the front.
Right. And the 17-foot height, that's 8 feet more than the interior ceiling. Is that intended to be storage up there? And if so, how is that accessed?
No, it's going to be truss, what they call truss built. So you don't have the poles in the center to support it. So there will be no access to the top. There's no loft.
Okay.
In that the way it's going to be constructed.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
By the way, after this is finished, I'm going to have to swear in Bob because he's ended up testifying. I don't know if he was sworn.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman. Not a problem.
Everything he's already said for council. Okay, so any questions from Patrick?
I think we touched on the points about the use variance, about the side yard variance, and about not using the building for a commercial use. So there's a couple more other conditions in my report which can be accommodated at the same time.
Okay, and Mark, have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do not.
Okay. At this point, I'm open for public. Fred, if you open up the line so anybody wants a question, Mike Ford, about his testimony.
Sure. Anybody have from the public have any questions for this applicant? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, Chairman, I think you can proceed.
Okay, Bob, Tina, would you swear in Bob? I guess he.
Bob,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give and the testimony you have given this board is and will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Any questions from members of the board for Bob? And you did testify already, Bob, that you talked to your neighbor about this and everything.
Correct. Yeah, we had a face-to-face outside this past weekend.
Okay, so no more questions from members of the board. Fred, open up the public again for any questions from the public for this witness.
Again, any questions from the public regarding this application? Please raise your hand.
Or statements from the public?
Yeah, questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Frank, it's a great application. I move to approve this application.
This is Phil. I second it.
Okay.
And I would just comment that, we're getting more and more of these requests to garage for cars. And it is one of our recommendations that perhaps it should be looked at, even though Bob's application would still have needed a bulk variance granted, but I see no problems with this. And besides, it'll be adding to the tax evaluation.
And add on to what it's recommendation 2 on the last page.
Right. So I guess Phil's already seconded the motion, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to a vote on the resolution, there are 3 things I noted as potential conditions. As usual, I have noted only things that have been discussed. It is up to the board to decide whether these things should be conditions. One of them is that the question was asked whether this would be used to house more than 2 vehicles. And Mr. Euro, I think, has accurately pointed out that it could conceivably be. So a potential condition would be a limitation to 2 vehicles. Secondly, there was a representation it would not be used for commercial use, a potential condition. And third, there was a representation the existing 2 sheds would be removed. If it's the board's intention that that be part of the resolution, that would be also a condition.
Mark, I have one more, that the drainage will flow in a positive way to the backyard.
Or I would normally phrase that, unless the board wanted to do it otherwise, as requiring that the drainage plan be approved by the board engineer.
Right.
Okay, with that said, I'll move to approve this application with the following conditions: non-commercial use, the requirement for the drainage approved by our office, and the vehicles, I'm not making that part of my condition. I don't really care if there's more than 2, so I'm not making that part of my condition.
I do point out that the application itself is for 2 vehicles, as I understand it. So even if it is not specifically a condition, That's all that's been asked for. That's all the board can approve. I think under those circumstances, it would be clearer if that were expressed as a condition, just so that in the future, there's no doubt about it.
I would agree, John. I think let's approve what was asked for and not muddy the waters.
Correct. I didn't know I had to add it as a condition, but I'll add it as one of the conditions. 2 vehicles.
Okay. Ready for a vote?
And Mr. Stamler, perhaps I missed it, but you've added the removal of the 2 existing sheds.
And the removal of the 2 existing sheds, correct.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
more
you.
discussion? Okay. Tina, would you call a roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes,
Ms. Haynes,
Yes,
Mr. Sirachi,
Yes.
Ms. Salili,
Yes,
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher.
Yes.
Okay, we're good.
Congratulations, Bob. And by the way, when our book gets to the planning board, it's item number 2.
Okay.
congratulations,
take care,
Bob.
Bob.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the committee's time. Have a good evening.
Tina, this is Philomena. This is
You're
Phil.
leaving?
Yes, I need to leave. I apologize, but I have a place I need to be zoomed on again.
Okay.
bye, Phil.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Phil.
Record show that Tina left at 8:06 p.m.
No, Phil left at 8:06.
I'm sorry,
I'm
yes.
still here.
Sorry.
If you want me to leave, I'll leave.
Tina, please no.
Okay, the next application is, I'm gonna bet, Timmy and Rochelle Bolasov, is that right? Okay, it's file BA 2006. Patrick, would you introduce the application, please?
Next application is Bolasov, file number BA 20-06, located at block 173, lot 78, otherwise known as 446 Long Hill Road. Applicant is seeking relief from conditions of resolution BA 03-21 and C-bold variances for relief to retain an existing paved driveway, construct an in-ground swimming pool with a 1,208 square foot walkway, an 800 square foot deck, a 292 square foot walkway, and relocating existing shed and remove an existing fence on the property that's on a different property. Property is located in the MZ zone. Time of decision is 2/08/21.
Thank you, Patrick. My name is Mike Ogrodnik. I'm an attorney at Savo, Shaw, Gillespie, Ogrodnik, and Fisher. I'm here on behalf of the Volaslavs, Dr. Voslav and her husband. They're seeking relief necessary to construct an in-ground swimming pool in the rear of their property. They're located at 446 Long Hill Road, which is block 171, lot 78. This is in the MZ zone. So this is a property that is in a heavily wooded area of Long Hill Road. It's kind of an awkward triangle-shaped lot. This was historically carved out. I don't know when, but carved out, and there was a double wide trailer. And 3.
I'm sorry, Mike, you froze. You said there was a double wide trailer,
Correct.
and then after that,
So there was a Board of Adjustment application for a single family lot that was ultimately approved by the zoning board under case BA 0321. That application, removed the trailer that was there and replaced it with a single family center hall colonial. There were several conditions that were imposed in 2003 with respect to that case number. So we're seeking some relief. Right now, again, this is a very relatively undersized lot. It's a 1.083 acre lot. in the zone, which as of course you know is a 15-acre zone. So by virtue of that large lot size, there's a series of impervious coverage variances that are necessitated. 5% impervious is permitted in the MZ zone. At the time, 5.3% was permitted with respect to the approval of that application. Right now, 11.7% is existing, which I'll get into. It's essentially a paved driveway, and 13.4% is proposed. So we're asking roughly for a 2% increase in impervious. This is for the pool. It's a 40 by 20 in-ground pool, but also for existing improvements that currently exceed the percentage permitted by the prior approvals. I'll note just for the record that 5.96% of impervious was permitted when the final drawings were submitted. So this application necessitates relief from that prior approval. Condition 1B, the driveway shall be constructed of stone except for the 20-foot concrete apron where the driveway meets Long Hill Road. The existing condition is that the driveway is paved. I will note that work was done prior to this owner, which was quite a surprise when we went through this process. And there's also condition 1F for no swimming pool, where we're going to ask for a swimming pool. And this is a relief that's requested from those prohibitions noted in BA 0321. There's existing nonconformities. Again, this is a very awkward, it's literally a triangle shaped lot. So of course, when you look at that, there's side yard setback issues. I had mentioned the lot area, because again, this is now a 15-acre zone. The minimum lot depth of 187.83 versus the 250 feet required. The existing nonconformity of the side yard setback, we're proposing a deck at 45.9 feet versus the 50 feet required. So tonight we're here, seeking permission. We had previously met with the Environmental Commission. They had some suggestions with respect to alleviating some of the runoff that's necessitated by the paved driveway. And I'll have Mr. Ford address that. I have two witnesses. I have Mr. Art Bernard. He's our professional planner, and he's going to go over the relief required. But my first witness is Mike Ford from Van Cleef Engineering Associates to explain the existing and proposed site plan conditions.
Oh, he's ready.
Oh, I couldn't find you, Mike. You keep moving. Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Michael Ford, F-O-R-D, with Van Cleef Engineering.
Okay, previously approved, so. we can accept
Appeared
it.
before this board just moments ago.
Yeah, and you haven't listed the license in the meantime. Right?
No. Okay. As Mr. Ogrodnik, maybe I can share my screen with an illustration. Let me find
You
it.
should still be able to, Mike.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Let me, I can see. All right. As Mr. Ogrodnik described, well, this is, we'll enter it as Exhibit A1. It's an existing condition plan. This is the same colorized exhibit that we presented to the Environmental Commission in August. It shows the existing conditions of the site. It's highlighted in yellow, a triangular shaped property, approximately 1 acre in size, fronting on Long Hill Road. The planner will describe the various bulk variants that are the result of existing conditions. With regards to the existing conditions, physically on the site. There's an existing driveway with a side entry garage, the existing dwelling, a walkway around the front of the property to the front door, as well as a paver patio to the rear of the dwelling. And I'm highlighting now with the pointer hand, just beyond the driveway along the rear property line is an existing shed. And you can see by this illustration, it's slightly over the rear property line onto the neighbor's property. There's also a fence in that area that encroaches onto the neighbor's property. Both of those existing encroachments onto the neighbor's property will be eliminated, and I'll get to that in a moment, by the proposed conditions. The site is serviced by an existing well and septic. The well is on the south side of the property, or the left side of the dwelling. And then on the right side of the dwelling, where I'm highlighting now, or the north corner, there's an existing well. As you can see, the existing triangular shaped property is maintained in a lawn feature. The result of this application will not result in any tree removal. The proposed condition is, I'll get to in a minute with the next illustration. But while we're on this illustration, you can see that the surrounding area is wooded. The property to our south is owned by Somerset County. That's preserved lands. And then with regards to immediate neighbors, there's only one house to the northwest of this site on lot 80. Other than that, there are no immediately nearby neighbors. And now I'll get to the proposed condition, the next illustration. Here's a green highlighted. This is the variance plan. Again, we'll call this A2.
Excuse me, Mr. Ford?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think it changed. Your view didn't change.
Oh, my view didn't change.
We're still
Okay.
sharing the original existing.
I flipped, but it didn't.
Let's stop sharing and try it again.
Yeah, stop sharing and let me
All
share
right.
again. There you
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, no problem.
That should do it.
Yes, that's
Okay.
better. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So this is A2, the proposed condition. This is the variance plan that was submitted as part of the application. It shows, again, highlighting the existing dwelling, which remains unchanged, as well as the existing paved driveway. The walkway to the front of the house remains unchanged. And then the walkway to the rear is maintained, but then a portion of the rear patio is eliminated and replaced with a wood deck, such that it would allow for infiltration. So the deck is not required or is not considered impervious coverage by the township's policy and zone. Beyond the wood deck is a proposed in-ground patio pool with a surrounding surface of concrete. With regards to engineering aspects, the existing septic is unimpacted, the well is unimpacted, and the grading associated with these changes is basically just the rear property line area. The existing drainage pattern is to the south now. And as I stated earlier, to the south is the preserved land owned by the county. And then out toward Long Hill Road, we've maintained those drainage patterns. In an effort to try to minimize regrading, we're proposing some retaining walls around the perimeter of the patio enclosure area. This not only affords minimizing regrading at the site while providing for the flat area, if you will, required when any pool is proposed. It all has to be a flat surface. So there's a larger area without any change in grade, but it also affords reduction in any potential creep of this area. That is, by surrounding the patio area around the pool with retaining walls. It's not readily available for any, unauthorized expansion of that area. As I stated earlier, we have that shed that's in this area beyond the existing driveway that'll be relocated such that it eliminates the encroachment onto the neighbor's property. And we had, as part of the initial application, proposed to relocate the shed in the area shown on this exhibit. However, in preparation for this evening's hearing, your zoning officer rightly pointed out that this new location, while eliminating one nonconformity, it actually would result in a new nonconformity in such that the accessory structure or sheds have a minimum front yard setback of 100 feet. And this is closer than 100 feet to the front property line. So what we are proposing to do, and it's actually already been made, the change has already been made on the plan, and it's actually on Civic Clerk, and I'm going to go to that exhibit next. If you can stop my share and let me reshare again. Okay. Coming back. In 3, 2, 1. There we go. This is the variance plan as revised with the new location for the relocated shed. That is moved from this location on that last exhibit, which is was A2, to this new exhibit, which I'll call A3. It's actually already on Civic Clerk, which is the revised variance plan showing the proposed new location for the shed in a conforming location in all respects. It meets all the setback criteria.
Mr. Ford, could you zoom that in a little for the public, please?
You just want to challenge me.
Sorry. It's
And
easier
Mike-
for them to see. Thank you.
Good
Perfect.
point. There we go. That's good, right? Can everybody see
Yes.
that?
Yes,
Okay.
much better. Thank you.
So
And
you
Mike,
see
what's,
the new
what's,
shed location?
Mike, what's the size of the shed?
I'm going to scale it.
Yeah, what's the size and what's stored in that shed?
It's about 15 by 9,
Oh, that's
and I don't know what's located or housed in the shed.
okay.
All right, is there any possibility that that can be moved onto the already existing paving so it'll help reduce your impervious a little bit?
What location would that be?
To the corner of your driveway, yeah, right, yes, about there.
Or is the shed needed?
I think
is
that's
the
really a
shed needed?
question for the applicant. If I go back to exhibit A1, you'll see that there actually are cars parked in this portion of the driveway. And there's obviously no parking on Long Hill Road in this section. It's a paved section of Long Hill Road, but it's very narrow. So I would defer to the owner with regards to that suggestion.
Okay,
And also, is the shed needed? Because, we're going over the impervious surface right now, and anything that'll help decrease the increase of that impervious surface is just a consideration, so.
But we just keep our kids like bicycles and all their outdoor
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, as usual, I'm sure the applicants are not aware of this, but testimony has to be taken under oath, and it is highly desirable that we deal with one witness at a time.
We'll come back to you.
I apologize.
Okay, but I would just inject, John, that it's listed as 140 square feet on the total, so that's a square footage on the application form.
The shed,
The shed.
yeah, 140 square feet. That's correct.
Yep.
That's on the impervious coverage worksheet that's provided as part of the application.
okay, thanks.
Yes.
The applicant would certainly anticipate, all the, new accessories relative to the pool would be conveniently stored within that shed, along with the aforementioned toys of the kids.
Going back to the previous comment, by moving that shed onto that driveway, I believe it would still be within that 100-foot setback requirement, thus requiring a variance.
Good point. Right now that you can see this on this illustration, what Mr. Gorman just pointed out is that if the shed were moved to the driveway, it would be within 100 feet of Long Hill Road, thus violating the front yard setback for an accessory structure. And then maybe just to summarize and finish with regards to engineering, we made a visit to the Environmental Commission. They acknowledged and confirmed that by virtue of reviewing NJDP sources for mapping of wetlands or other restrictions like streams, this site is well beyond any of those potential areas. As I indicated already in A1 and A2, the existing areas of the proposed project are within areas that are already disturbed, thus not requiring the removal of any trees. It's basically redeveloping lawn area that's disturbed. And with regards to drainage, we're endeavoring to manage and maintain the existing drainage patterns that would direct runoff toward our nearest neighbor to the south and then on beyond that toward Long Hill Road. So it's no existing residential neighbor that would be impacted by the nominal increase in runoff resulting from the impervious coverage. And then with regards to impervious coverage and stormwater runoff, I've had the opportunity to discuss with the board's engineer, the recommendation by the Environmental Commission to consider some stormwater management practice for the driveway, the paved driveway, and some type of infiltration BMP. And as I'm sure many of the board members know, we're in an area of the township where the soils are not conducive to infiltration, clay, silty soils with shallow depth to bedrock. In fact, in this area of township, there's a number of areas where there's rock outcrops. All that said, if it's the board's pleasure to provide some kind of stormwater management BMP, we could consider and discuss it with the applicant and provide it to the greatest extent we could. That is, what little permeability the soil may have. It certainly is, impeded by impervious coverage. So if there was a request to provide for pervious portion of the driveway or some type of rain garden, we would entertain that. It's just certainly with a caveat that because of the natural restrictions of the soils in this area, an infiltration stormwater management practice is not so suitable in this area.
Hey, Mike, it's John Stamler.
Yes, sir.
Right now, I'm looking at a satellite view of the dwelling, driveway, the yard. And right now I see 3 vehicles parked on that driveway past the 2 bays for the garage. To me, there's plenty of room to put that shed on top of that driveway.
The applicant's on and is hearing that.
Okay.
So I would suggest to the application, they might want to consider putting that shed as Ms. Haynes mentioned earlier. And I'm looking at the satellite view and I got a close up on it. There's 3 vehicles right now parked on that driveway past the 2 bays. So what I'm suggesting is that shed could be moved where those 3 vehicles are very easily.
Okay, so we'll have testimony from the applicant herself, and I'm going to also ask her at the time if that would present any difficulty back out of the garage, if that was on the plan. Okay. Mike.
And also, one other thing, when I look at the property line, it seems like there's a lot of land cleared that does not belong to the applicant. Was that cleared by the prior owner? Because it seems like it makes, their yard wider, but I was wondering, was that land cleared by the prior owner? And it's not the applicant's, correct?
If Mike doesn't know the answer, hold that thought, John.
Yeah. Yeah, not familiar with the history.
Any other questions from, are you finished, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions from members of the board? If done, I have one question for Mike. Do you have any idea why the prior, back in 2003, they made it a condition and actually put it in the deed that there would be no pool on this property?
No, I don't. I wasn't involved in that application, so I don't. Perhaps, somebody else does, but I don't.
Okay, any reason that part of town, well-wise, that they might put that in there possibly?
Say that again, sir. I'm sorry.
Any reason in that part of town with wells having problems running dry that they might have put it in there?
That same or similar question was raised by one of the public during the Environmental Commission meeting. And typically with in-ground pools, the initial filling of it is done by a water truck. So that wouldn't, have any impact on the well. And then ongoing maintenance or replenishment of the water would be done by the well. And, while certainly that's a concern in this area of the township, our closest neighbor is several hundred feet away, beyond even the 500 feet that would require a well interference test for a new construction. And I'm not aware of any restrictions, for example, on the applicant, if they were to have a garden on site now that required irrigation, that would limit their water use. So, while it's certainly a concern, seems as though, by doing the initial filling of the pool with a water truck as opposed to the well, and the minimal amount of water that I think would be required to maintain the pool water level, there'd be no adverse impact.
Someplace, I don't know if it was in the Environmental Commission report, that I saw that the previous well test was like 480 gallons an hour or something like that. And that would be enough to maintain the pool once it was filled up?
Yeah, the applicant, I think at the Environmental Commission commented just that, just what we've said already.
Okay.
And the applicant would be amenable to imposing a condition that the fill be done by water truck and not by the well that's on site.
And that would apply to any subsequent necessary in the future if it had to be refilled again.
That's fine.
Bob Euro, do you have any questions?
Yeah, real quick for Mr. Ford, Bob Euro here. Any site lighting or additional landscaping going to be proposed as part of the application?
This would just be all residential nature. So typical residential type of lighting fixtures. There's no proposal for pole mounted, searchlight type of, lighting. And with regards to landscaping, it would be typical residential landscaping that would enhance the view of the property. To really, given the limited visibility from the neighbors or the surrounding neighborhood, there's really no apparent need for any kind of screening.
Okay. One other question. In accordance with my January 6th, 2021 letter, the applicant will provide necessary details on the proposed retaining wall for our review?
Yes, typically we'd, at the time of the, construction permit for the pool, all of those details would be provided.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Mike, you might have said it before, but in addition to moving the shed, was the fence that's over the property line also going to be relocated?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry if I missed that, if you said it before.
No, I don't know that I did, but it is shown on the plan.
Okay.
And by the way, I found the 488 gallons per hour was in the previous resolution from 2003 on page 2. Okay, Patrick, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just two comments, Mr. Chairman. The first, there was actually a deed restriction in the previous resolution regarding an on-site irrigation unit. So even if one was there, it would have been prohibited by the previous resolution. Second of all, the movement of the shed onto that area of the driveway, which was described earlier, if it's within that 100 feet, would require a variance for the front yard setback.
How close would it be, Patrick?
Unfortunately, the MZ zone offers the 100-foot setback for an accessory structure.
No, I know, but how close would it be if it's put at the corner of the pavement?
I would have to measure that, or else Mr. Ford can in the meantime.
I think Ms.
Well, how do you know it's in violation of the front yard setback?
Because Mr. Ford provided a envelope on the plan that shows a 100-foot setback.
Right,
Oh, well, Mike, can you estimate about where it?
70 feet.
70? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, our initial application showed it at about 65 feet. So that exhibit A2 shows the location about 65 feet. If you put it in that location on the driveway that's been suggested, it'd be about 70 feet.
Any other, Mark, do you have any?
Chairman, a couple of comments, not really questions at this point, but I think that it may be helpful for me to make these as the board is continuing with this application. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I believe you raised the question of why the condition on no pool was imposed originally. And Mr. Ford answered that he didn't know the answer. This is not only a condition that was imposed in an application, but the prior board went to the unusual step of requiring this to be placed in the deed. Now, I don't think legally that imposes any additional strength or certainty to the condition, but it certainly, from my experience, indicates a mindset of a board to be certain that a future owner is aware of the condition, so that, well, simply put, so that they don't get applications like this. But leaving aside the question of why it was required to be in a deed, when a prior board has imposed a particular condition and the board is being asked to change that, to overrule it, I think that the board always needs to focus on why did the original board do that? And why is there a reason why there is no longer a need to impose that condition? I do not think a board can appropriately just assume that there wasn't a reason.
Good.
So I think the board needs to satisfy itself in that regard. There has been some discussion also about moving the shed. This is, I think, one of those few areas that I think that the normal, whatever other variances, the catch-all in the notice that Mr. Grodnick, of course, is always careful enough to include. I think that this does apply. This is a situation where the board in its discussion is suggesting a design which was not proposed by the applicant. And I think that it is not what I consider a major change. And I think that if the board feels that that is appropriate, even though it does create the additional variance situation, as Mr. Gorman has indicated, I do not think that it violates the notice question.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to open the public for questions from the for this witness from the public. So Fred, if you would open the line.
Sure. If anyone from the public has a question for this witness, you can please raise your hand. Please, when you're called on, state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name. I see one. It looks like Miss Weingart.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Weingart. I reside at 484 Long Hill Road. I'll spell my last name Weingart.
Thank you.
We moved here in 2007.
Okay, before you go on, I just want to say that this is the time to ask questions of this witness. If you're going to want to make a public statement, we'll do that after the applicant completes his testimony.
Okay.
Okay, so again, if you want to ask questions for this witness, Mike Ford, go ahead.
Okay, no questions.
You don't have any?
You just want to comment later?
I want to comment later. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there, again, anybody have questions for this witness? There'll be, again, plenty of time for public comment at the end. Mr. Chairman, I see none. You can proceed with.
I'll pass it back to Mr. Ogrodnik then for his.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have Art Bernard, our professional planner, who we've retained to represent Dr. Volosov on this application, the Volosovs. And I would ask that Mr. Bernard, I know he's appeared before this board many times, but just give the benefit of his experience and explain the variances as identified by Mr. Gorman.
Sure.
First, Mr. Bernard, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead. You may proceed.
Okay, just tell us a little about the qualifications.
Sure. I'm the managing member of my own firm. I have a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers University. I'm a licensed professional planner with over 45 years of experience in the field, and I've been qualified before this board.
Okay, good. We'll stop you right there. Go ahead. We can accept the qualification.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, since before Mr. Bernard testifies, just some exhibit clarifications, if I may, from Mr. Ogrodnik. There was, Mr. Ford referred to 3 as exhibits, A1, A2, A3.
Correct.
At least the first 2, I believe, are part of the application package. We don't normally mark those as separate exhibits. Unless I've misunderstood, I do not think there's a need to mark either of those. Mr. Ogrodnik, am I correct that those are?
Very good. Yeah, the only comment I have is that we had submitted late a final exhibit that moved the shed after we had discussions. So perhaps that should be marked and it was uploaded in anticipation of this hearing. But you know, again, it's just moving the shed into a conforming area, but we would perhaps ask that to be marked as A2.
Well, yeah, that was my understanding that is a new, was not part of the original packet. And that being the case, I think it's appropriate that it be marked, but I suggest that we leave it as A3, notwithstanding that we won't have an A1 or an A2, so that it is consistent with Mr. Ford's testimony.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to have interrupted Mr. Bernard's testimony.
Okay. So I guess the best place for me to start is just to review the relief that we've asked for, or the relief that was at least mentioned in Mr. Gorman's report, which I think included some existing non-conforming conditions. The lot size is, I think, 1.08 acres as opposed to the 15 acres that's required in the Mountain Conservation Zone. Lot depth is supposed to be 250 feet. It's 187.8 feet in this case. And minimum front yard in the zone is required to be 150 feet. The existing condition is 61.7 feet. In addition to those existing nonconformities, we have asked for 2 new variances. And one is for the impervious coverage, where the ordinance in this 15-acre zone allows a 5% impervious coverage, and we're proposing 13.4% on, not on a 15-acre lot, but on basically a lot that's a shade over 1 acre. And the deck intrudes into the side yard slightly. It's the side yard setback requirement is 50 feet, and we're proposing 45.9 feet. And then there's the question of when we came here tonight, we thought we had a conforming plan as opposed to the shed, but there's been discussion tonight about moving the shed onto the driveway. That would create another variance. Instead of 100 feet, it would be apparently approximately 70 feet. In terms of the lot size, the lot depth, and the front yard setback, Again, those are existing nonconformities, and the applicant is doing nothing to exacerbate those conditions. So I don't know, I think this board treat those as existing nonconformities and reconfirms them, as I recall. In terms of the impervious coverage, I guess what it struck me is this is a very undersized lot, 15-acre zone, and that, you know, the 5% standard would provide for a lot of impervious coverage on a 15-acre lot. So what I thought I'd do is I check what your standard is for a lot that's just a shade over 1 acre. And that brought me to your R zone, which is a 1 acre zone where your impervious coverage standard is 15%. And
Mr. Bernard, I'm sorry, but we're not talking about the R zone as part of this application. This zone is totally different from the other residential zones in the township. Your testimony should be confined to what's permitted in the MZ zone.
And I would like to dovetail on what Patrick just said, that the other zones do not have the same water problems that the mountain does. And that was the main reason for changing it to 15-acre zoning.
And one more comment is that my analysis of the existing conditions contrasts to what you just said, as what's being proposed now is an exacerbating condition of the previous approval, in which those variances were granted for the minimum lot area, lot depth, and so on. The only one that can say that not changing at this point is the distance for the setback for the house from the front yard. But all those other variances were granted as part of a package for the existing part of the house as remain as is.
well, that's a handful of stuff to deal with.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, the applicant is not changing the lot area of the lot, and the applicant is not changing. Just trying to think what the second thing. Oh, it's not changing the lot depth of the lot.
Correct.
In terms of exacerbating the condition, really what he's exacerbating is the impervious coverage with the pool. He's not exacerbating the lot dimension, those other lot dimensions. So I would tend to disagree. And I think I disagree that the lot coverage in the R zone is irrelevant to the application, because this is a lot that was created. It's 1 acre, a 1 acre lot in a 15-acre zone for a single family house. And there's certain conditions that you would normally expect to have on for a single family house, including a driveway, including a deck. And I know that the Board of Adjustment in 2003 took some actions on that, and required some deed restrictions. I think that, and if the board disagrees with me or doesn't want to give the R zone, the town allows on a 1 acre lot in the R zone, if it doesn't want to give it much weight, well, that's their right, but I think it's relevant. So I'll throw it out there. I think it is relevant, and I'd like the board to consider it. Because I think, you know, when someone has a single family home, that there are some expectations on what they would like to be able to do with it. And one of them is to park cars in a driveway, and one is for the kids to be able to play in a pool. And I think that all should be considered. So in terms of the shed and where it is, I understand the board's concern with the impervious coverage. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think the pool would certainly look nicer if it wasn't on the driveway, if it was behind the house where the applicant has proposed to put it. I also think that the applicant's proposal for impervious coverage, given the size of the lot, is a reasonable proposal. So when I examine all the variances, the side yard setback for the deck and the proposed impervious coverage, and I look at the lot and I say, I think that all the relief is related to the fact that the standards for the zone are based on a 15-acre lot size, and the existing lot is undersized and irregularly shaped. It's a long, narrow, triangular lot of 1 acre as opposed to a squared off lot of 15 acres. And as a result, there's not a lot of lot depth. The house is located near the center of the property. It was approved with the front yard setback of 61.7 feet. The deck that's being proposed is attached to the home between the home and the proposed pool. So it's in a logical location. The proposed impervious coverage relief is not unreasonable for a 1 acre lot. And in my opinion, all the variances are due to the undersized nature and irregular shape of the lot, and the strict application would result in a hardship, the inability to have a logically placed deck and shed given the location of the house. I'd also note that in terms of neighbors, that this lot is fairly remote. There are no neighbors immediately surrounding the Volosoff property. Yard is fenced off from a large wooded area, and I guess the nearest home is over 200 feet away from the property line. So I also think that these variances could be granted based on the C2 criteria. And that would be that, and that the relief based on the C2, where the municipal land use law allows boards to approve the relief when a proposal advances the purposes of the municipal land use law and the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments. And when weighing the benefits and the detriments, the courts have instructed boards to consider the benefits of the entire proposal, not just the benefits of a specific variance. So in this case, one of the benefits of the proposal is that the family can enjoy its property within the constraints of the existing location of the house and driveway, and an impervious coverage standard that's reasonable for a 1 acre lot. Another advantage of the proposal is it eliminates the encroachments on the neighbor's property. I find that the proposal advances purpose A of the municipal land use law that involves encouraging use of land, and purpose G, which is to provide sufficient space for residential uses in appropriate locations to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. And when you read those two purposes of the municipal land use law from front to back, they come away with two main thoughts. One is the appropriate use of land, and the other is a benefit to New Jersey citizens. Now, in terms of the appropriate land, the Board of Adjustment has already determined the site's appropriate for the house by permitting the creation of the lot. The proposal benefits the public by allowing people to enjoy the use of the property within the constraints of the existing location of the house and driveway, and an impervious coverage that is reasonable for a lot of this size. So those are my my proofs for the positive criteria for the C1 and the C2 variances. In terms of the negative criteria, I don't see a negative impact to the public good. There are no privacy or noise issues associated with the proposal. The applicant is agreeing to protect the area wells by having an outside contractor deliver to fill. There are no traffic issues associated with the increase in impervious coverage. And the applicant's plan does comply with the state's stormwater regulations, and which is certainly applicable to the impervious coverage variance. In terms of the zone plan, I find that the lot area and the lot depth are existing conditions, and the applicant is doing nothing to exacerbate those nonconformities. I find that there's no substantial detriment to the zone plan associated with the new variances because the lot already exists. The house has been located in the same place for years. It's an isolated lot in a wooded area, and as far as the impervious coverage is concerned, the requested impervious coverage is less than your ordinance permit on a similar sized lot. So in terms of the variances, I find that many of the variances result because the lot was approved as an undersized, irregularly shaped lot. I find that the strict application of the ordinance would create a hardship. I find that the benefits of granting of the proposal substantially outweigh any detriments associated with granting the relief, and I would urge the board to grant the relief. In terms of the prohibitions against the pool, I don't know why the board imposed that condition. It might have had something to do with the water table. I don't see any planning issues associated with it, especially since the applicant is agreeing as a condition to have a contractor fill the pool with imported water. In terms of the driveway, I don't know why the board said that the applicant couldn't have a paved driveway. I do know that it's certainly easier to maintain the driveway in the paved condition that it's in now. And that even with the driveway, the impervious coverage on this lot, I think is very reasonable for a 1 acre lot. So that's my.
Thank you, Art.
Any questions from members of the board?
Is the transcript is the transcript from the 2003 Board of Adjustment meeting a public record, and has any attempt been made to review that to determine why that board went so far as to demand a deed restriction on no swimming pool?
I haven't seen the transcript. And to answer the second half of your question, I didn't make an effort to find the transcript.
Patrick, I think, did you look for it or was?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So an attempt was made to locate, there was no official written transcript for this application.
So I guess the bottom line is that we're never going to know.
We did submit the resolution, you know, which talked, and I think it's relevant. It talked about the historic use of this undersized lot with a double wide trailer, which to me, even though this is a 15-acre zone, hints at perhaps eliminating the trailer use with a single-family residence. This is obviously a newer construction, high-end residential structure, which the Dr. Volasov wants to improve with a pool. So we would hope that the historic decisions certainly were relevant or related to eliminating a double wide trailer on the road.
So a couple of matters that I can attest to at this time, it would help the board, is Mr. O'Gronick is correct. So there was a structure on this property, a dwelling on this property. At some point, something happened to that dwelling and it was removed. It came back after approvals to put a house on here, on the property. Over time, there's been other improvements made to the property that we cannot find approvals for that were done. And looking through the township records and through the minutes, they were very vague going into why some of these restrictions were put in place. The disc, we might have a disc on the property to find it, but that has to be found at this time. It might be in our archive. I couldn't find an immediate source of that disc. This mean as to what happened at the Board of Adjustment meeting back in 2003.
And I mean, one of things back then, if this was still a gravel driveway, that would have been a 50% coverage, so it would have brought it back way back.
Likely would have been that imposition would have been there at that time.
Right. And currently gravel is considered, even if it hadn't been paid, if it was, today it would be 100%, but back then it was.
It's considered a compacted surface at 100% impervious.
Yeah.
The last part to attest to was, as you notice on the plan, there's a portion that was taken apart of the right of way. So this lot was originally at one size, then was reduced a little bit further. That's the best I can offer to the board at this time. In regards to Mr. Bernard's testimony, he testified on two factors: one for the hardship, the strict nature of the variance, considering that this is an undersized lot for the zone. The other one is the C2 variance, which can provide detriment. In regards to that part, the purpose of the zone was for this to be in more of a conservation state. This is a unique zone of that and other residential zones of the township, which has a stricter conditions to help protect the ecological sensitive conditions of the Sarowlands. So in that regard, I rebuff some of his testimony.
While you were talking, I was doing some math on that shed. So the shed is 140 square feet. So I would ask Bob Euro, 140 square feet out of 47,000, is that a significant or a de minimis amount of coverage that would be added if we left the shed on, not on the driveway?
That's less than 1%. That's a de minimis.
Yeah, it's 3
amount of impervious.
Yeah, Frank, I'd like more to concentrate on the size of the proposed patio. Are we going to hear from the owner next, Mr. Grodnick?
Sure, Ms. Haynes. Dr. Voloslav, can we swear her in?
Well, before we do that, I'm going to open questions from the public for this witness.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Mr. Chairman, I do have questions of Mr. Bernard when it's appropriate.
Go ahead then, before I open.
All right. Mr. Bernard, my questions are really focused on the conditions that were previously imposed, and particularly the specific condition that there be no pool. And I think you've already indicated that you don't have an explanation for that. I have not heard one from anyone so far, but a couple of questions with regard to that. Is your experience similar to mine, that it is unusual, perhaps even highly unusual, for a Board of Adjustment to require that a condition also be reduced to a deed restriction?
I agree. It's my experience. It's unusual as well.
Would you agree also with my assessment that the board should be extremely careful and perhaps quite reluctant to, in essence, overrule a prior board without an understanding of the reasons behind the prior board's condition?
Well, I think we're kind of at a loss. So as to what the board was thinking of and why they did it, so I think we have to look at it from the context of, is there a planning reason not to allow a pool, especially if the water is going to be imported from another source and not draw down on the water table? And I just don't see one.
Well, my question is,
Mr. Anderson, the question really isn't about the pool itself, since the pool is considered an pervious, quote unquote, pervious area. Sorry for the quotations. The question is about the walkway around the pool, which helps increase the impervious coverage on the property. So we're looking at the walkway that goes around the pool. They're not requesting any variances for the pool setback. The request is part of the impervious coverage for the pool walkway.
My questions are quite separate from the impervious coverage issue, which I think has been explored reasonably well. Mr. Bernard certainly has testified, I think, fully to that. My question is really as to the fact that there was a specific condition. This is not a condition simply that the prior board was concerned about further increases in impervious coverage. This is a specific restriction that you can't have a pool on the property. And Mr. Bernard has indicated that his experience is the same as mine, that it is not typical that a board will also ask that such a condition be contained in a deed restriction. You know, I take it from that the previous board was really trying to send a very strong message. I think that without the board having an appreciation for what that reason was, this board should be reluctant to overrule it. I do observe that Mr. Patrick Gorman was asked about whether there was a further record, and he's indicated that perhaps not every avenue has been explored. Leave it to the board to decide what to do with that, but it seems to me that if there is a further record, that might help illuminate the reason and either explain to the board, well, now we understand and we think that there's been a change, or there is a good reason why we should overrule the previous board, or conversely, that this board would be fully informed as to the reason why the prior board did what it did and agree with it. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, I'm open to the public questioning for this witness.
Sure. Okay, anybody from the public have questions for this witness? Again, not comment time. Questions for this witness on this application? I see none. Chairman, you can proceed.
Okay. Mr. Grodnick, give another witness? Or?
Well, I guess at this point, I guess prefer some feedback from the board. I mean, do you want to look at the archives and try to find it? I mean, to me, I look at this, I look at the aerial of this site. It's heavily wooded. It's remote. It's a 40 by 20 pool. I don't see it as something that we really need to, continue. But, if it's the board's preference, certainly we'll Oprah request the archives. We'll review the archives and just see what the concern was. To me, this, this goes back to an undersized lot that was sometime carved off by the township for a double wide trailer, and I see uses historically that would probably be more permissive of that when it was a more rural area. So the township, made some decisions on, hey, I think we probably want a modern home there, but we're stuck with this, weird triangle lot. So if it's the board's pleasure that we want to do a deep dive into the history of, the reasons for those deed restrictions, then we can do so, and we'd ask for an adjournment without notice, or I would, ask the board, discuss that.
So I'm going to ask board members your thoughts on the deeper dive, more information before we make a decision.
Hey, Frank, it's John. It's probably a good idea we do that. I don't have a problem with this undersized lot. With the conditions, we haven't discussed that sun deck and the concrete around the pool. I know we've been through this many, many years, and even with my pool, with the 12-foot sun deck and how many feet around the pool, that can always be decreased. But for the application and all, I want them to, just to know that, we're not shooting this down, but it probably is best to find out what that board was thinking when they put that restriction on the property. But I just want to let you know that with everything that was discussed with bringing in the water, with the shed that we could still discuss, the relocation of the fence, but also with the concrete around the pool, there's room to decrease that to improve that impervious surface. But I agree with a 1 acre lot at 15% impervious is standard in residential areas. And but that would all be considered, but I would really like to know what that previous board was thinking when they approved it. So
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, and let me put my 2 cents in here. You know, number one, you know, the environmental commission didn't come out against this. Okay, you know, they weren't opposed to this. But I think the problem, not legal, you know, but really environmental. So I'd really like to know why that earlier board was so concerned about not having a pool there, and that would really help me make a decision.
Right. And one other thing, Frank and Mr. Ogrodnik, has the applicant sent out letters to adjacent property owners asking to be able to buy additional land? Usually it doesn't happen, but has that been done?
No, I don't think, you know, that's been done here, and I'm not sure that we would.
Your applicant's shaking it.
Well, just to cover all bases, maybe, because that if it were possible to buy additional land, it would reduce the impervious.
Yeah.
Frank, that's it.
Me personally,
Yeah, I'm not sure
about the impervious is that deed restriction for the, you know, not having a pool. Well, it must have been at the time.
Well,
I would say that it was certainly rare in 2003 that there would be a deed restriction for no pool. However, you know, deed restrictions have become commonplace in the last decade with land use approvals. So,
I mean, I don't want to give an answer. I'm not a witness, but you know, I lived in Hillsborough over 40 years, and I know in some real dry summers up in that side of town, some wells have gone dry. So that could have been, you know. But if you can,
I think it would only be fair for the application if, yeah, we do find out what the reasoning, because I would hate to make a decision or a bad decision without that.
okay. Well, given that, we would respectfully request an adjournment to the next available meeting to allow us to take a look at the record and supplement the record with any relevant information.
you know, Patrick, we do have only 1 or 2 applications for the first February meeting, right?
No, I think we're up to 4.
Oh, 4, okay.
Yeah, let me grab my sheet 1 second.
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Gorman is looking at that.
I mean, we've gone pretty far through the testimony. Yes, we'll have 4 on for February 3rd. They're all, again, homeowner applications, impervious coverage, front yard setback. One's for a new home. Nothing that the board hasn't seen before. At the board's pleasure, if we want to continue on the 3rd, I think we can, you know, finish this up and not have it carry into March at that point, which would require an extension. I think it'd be okay, and then we'll at least give us a little bit of time to dive into our archive a little bit and find stuff, and then share what we can with the applicant.
Mark, you wanted to say something, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Yes, a question for Mr. Ogrodnik. There's been, of course, some considerable discussion about the shed and whether its location or the various discussed locations would require additional variance. I do not see a request in the notice for any variance relative to the location of the shed. Have I missed something?
No, that was a variance that was identified in the review memorandum after we had submitted notice, and then we revised the site plan to eliminate the variance. Okay. So
that was my understanding. And as I said before, if the applicant wants to do something as a result of a board request or a board recommendation, I do not think that creates an issue with the notice. However, I do suggest that you want to discuss with the applicant what they want to do. There was another alternative proposed, not one requested by the board, which I think would require additional notice. So I'd be happy to discuss that with you, but I think you certainly would want to discuss with your client first what position they want to take.
Very good. Yeah, we'll discuss offline the necessity of a variance based upon adjustments, impervious, et cetera.
The next meeting is just 14 days away from today, so you know, if there's a notice involved, you got to act pretty quick.
And Michael,
understood.
Michael, it's John Stamler again. And if you could you take a look at the the concrete around the pool, the sun deck and all to see, maybe you could trim it down a little bit ahead of time? Appreciate it.
We'll look at that and further explore the recommendations in the Environmental Commission with respect to a rain garden in the front left of the property to address some of the stormwater runoff from the paved driveway.
Great, thanks.
Now, okay, so do we have a motion then to move this to February 3rd?
Yeah, let me just double check that an extension is not needed.
Motion?
I think Patrick's checking something out here.
Well, he's doing it. We never heard from Mrs. Christine Weingart. So after the applicant has finished their testimony, we'll come back to her just so she's aware.
Patrick, we may have an issue with February 3rd for notice publication in the Beacon.
You could, but I mean, you might be able to get into the carrier.
Okay.
We circle back tomorrow morning.
Okay.
If you do have to notice, your time of decision is February 8th. Of course, if we have it on the 3rd, we won't need an extension, but if it's beyond that, then we'll need an extension.
Very good.
But I should know what I find in the archives by the end of the week, hopefully, knock on wood. So some things are off-site at this point. The 2003s, I believe, are off-site. We may have to request a box back if the recording's in there. If not, it might be another recording box that I have not found. So I'll check back with you tomorrow, and then we'll go back as the week progresses.
Very good.
Okay, so it's still on for the 3rd and February 3rd?
Correct.
Okay, so motion for that, please?
Yeah, motion to move to February 3rd.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Good luck.
Always an added twist.
Mr. Chairman,
Thanks,
you're
guys.
going to allow Christine Weingarten to speak tonight, or are you requesting that she carry her comments?
Normally, we have public comment after the applicant is finished with the testimony.
It is indeed standard, yes.
Yeah, so I think we should probably stick with that.
All right, I just want to make sure that she is aware that this is going to be carried. It is not clear at this point. It will be up to Mr. Grodnick to make a final decision, but there may or may not be further notice that she would receive as a neighbor, a letter. So she should assume that it will be on February 3rd, even if she doesn't receive any further notice. And anyone else who may be listening in and has an interest in this application.
Good. See you then. Okay, so the next application tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I just need a 3-minute break.
Because the 3-minute breaks. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, I gotta let him out or else.
Oh, it's your dog that keeps on.
Yes, and
Patrick, I thought they were your dogs.
No, he's getting old and he can't hold it anymore. So
Okay.
he's ready to kill me. I gotta go.
So to round it up, 7-minute break, 9:25. Everybody be back here. Okay.
You ready to talk?
Because I won't be sworn in, only you'll be sworn in.
I'm just joking. We both are here, so we can both sworn in. It's okay.
Just hang on the side. Do you know your opening sentence again? Because the address number, the block number, and the moving furniture, so you don't have to say anything. Just say, you know, I'm here to request.
Yeah.
So we're building a pool and I'm looking to get relief from my impervious coverage from my existing walkway and patio.
You want to talk?
No,
Do that talking.
can you stop?
And 3 minutes to go before everybody's back. Mr. Vinci, welcome to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert.
Yeah. So I guess you'll find out from the office in the next few weeks. You'll be sent out to an orientation.
Okay.
That they have, which really helps you with everything that's going on here.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm included in that too, right?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, they like everything else, they'll probably be doing that remotely these days.
Oh, okay.
But, in the past, it was about 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and it was really eye-opening. All the things you learn at that. You understand what we're talking about tonight.
The introductory course is required for all land use board members, new land use board members, with a couple of very limited exceptions. People who are licensed professional planners do not have to complete it. I do note, as a matter of irony, that if I were appointed to a land use board, I would have to complete it, notwithstanding my 40 years or so of experience.
Oh, okay.
So be it. So don't feel you've been singled out. I hope you find that
anymore.
I hope you find it is useful, and I would also say that any member of the board, in particular new members of the board, have questions about the process, any questions generally about land use, the responsibilities that they have as members of the board. That's one of the things I'm here for. So.
Okay, great.
The class is helpful. It really gives you a better base understanding of the purposes of the boards and how to group things and how to look at things at a different perspective.
Okay.
The most surprising thing for myself was that learning that there was no land use law until, was it 1947, after World War II?
Well, there was no zoning.
No zoning, yeah.
Zoning itself did not exist. The seminal case on zoning is back U.S. Supreme Court back in about 1934. Before that, there was a serious question about whether zoning imposed such restrictions that it was not permissible. But U.S. Supreme Court decided in a case called Euclid versus Ambler Realty in the early 30s. A little piece of trivia for you that there was a proposed statute proposed by the federal government when zoning first became recognized, I established the same kind of general procedures that remain in place today. That including particularly the distinction between planning board and zoning board of adjustment. Just in case you get this on Jeopardy, that model statute was passed by the Commerce Department when Herbert Hoover was the Secretary of Commerce.
There you go. In fact, if you go over to Patrick's office, you have that first zoning map up there. I think you had 3 zones in Hillsborough: residential, farming, and everything else. Right?
And the small little business zones.
Okay, so I see Tina's back online. Tina,
Yes, thank you.
would you take a roll call again just to make sure we have everybody?
Yeah, Mr. Herbert. Okay. Mr. Stamler,
Here.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Mr. Sirachi,
Here.
Mr. Valchek,
Here.
Mr. Walmacher,
Here.
Mr. Fincher,
Here.
Ms. Comfer.
Here.
Okay, we have Mr. Gorman,
Present.
right? Yeah, Mr. Anderson,
I'm here.
Mr. Euro.
Here.
Fred, you're here, right?
I am.
Okay, and me, I believe everybody is here.
Okay. The next
Second session, 927.
Okay,
Thank
next-
you.
Okay, the next application tonight is Jason Scott and Danielle Scott, file BA 2007. Patrick, would you introduce that, please?
Our next application, Scott, file number BA 20-07, located at block 58, lot 59, otherwise known as 107 Taylor Avenue. The applicant is seeking a steep bulk variance relief to retain an existing walkway, patio, and sunroom addition on the property located in the R residential zone. This was adjourned from our November 4th, 2020 meeting. The applicant has re-noticed and we received everything. Time of decision is January 31st, 2021.
Hey, Mr. Scott, you're going to represent yourself tonight, right? You have to, okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so Tina, would you swear the applicant in?
Sir, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Scott, tell us why you're here.
Okay, so originally the home was purchased in 2008 for the purpose of a mother-daughter home. It was in Green Hills, and we went through the township of Hillsborough, converted the 2-car garage, which is an attached side-facing 2-car garage, into a 460 square foot apartment for the in-law to live in the home. Over the course of years, living in a home with 5 people and not having any storage, none of the homes in the neighborhood, where that house is considered Green Hills. That is Johansson, Taylor Ave, and all, Hamler and all the streets surrounding it. None of those homes have basements. So there's very, very limited storage. There's very, very limited living space in the home. When we purchased the home, there was a very large brick patio in the backyard. The original plans were slightly different than what was physically shown, but I had gone to the board of Hillsborough in 2017, I believe. And just so everybody here knows, the apartment, the in-law suite in the home was all permitted. Everything was passed. There was COs given. Part of the deal was upgrading the electrical service to the home, HVAC to the home. There was significant concrete and footings that were done to change the entrance from the garage to a load-bearing wall, etc. All of that, all permits are closed. Everything was cleared, and we have that in our records. Mr. Gorman and I have discussed that in some previous emails as well. That being said, in 2017, I went to the board. I went to zoning to put a roof over the back of my home. On Taylor Ave, where I live, there are 14 other homes that came with these Florida rooms, we'll call them. It's back addition off the back of the home. My home doesn't, but I mean, I happen to be one of the largest properties on Taylor Avenue on either side of the road. Now we're not 15-acre lots like the last applicant was, but I still have one of the bigger properties, and my home backs up to roughly a 5-acre landlocked piece of property behind me. The father's construction is there. So I went to the town and said, I want to put this roof line over the back of my house. And I was told, and I don't know who I spoke with at the time, but I was told, fill out these forms and give us a check for $2,600, and we'll vote on whether or not you can do this or not. And I said, well, what happens if you vote no? Do I get my money back? And I was told that it was non-refundable. So I went, and for $2,400, I built the roof on the house, taking out the existing patio. Now I after that, I built around it. I put a concrete foundation. I did all the engineering, all the planning, and all the work myself. I did not hire contractors. I myself paid my way through college doing all kind of construction, from concrete work to carpentry. I was a carpenter's apprentice and electrician's apprentice, and did the work to this addition myself. And I got a notice from the township that we have to go through planning and proper channels, and so I want to. I don't not want to. I want to work with the town, and I want to make everything right. We've increased the impervious coverage of the home to 21%. Part of the initial plan dealing with Mr. Gorman, where there were 2 sheds on the property. We've since removed those sheds from the property. If you look in the backyard behind the pool, you may or may not in the packet have 2 sheds back there. They were removed from the property. And what we're looking at is in the backyard, a patio that walks to the entrance of the addition itself, and a small patio that goes from the addition to the pool. I don't know if any of you have do you all have the whole packet with the photographs and?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it.
All right. I've never gone through any of this before, so I just didn't know how it works.
Plus, I'm looking at the satellite view of your property now anyway. So.
Okay.
Fred, do you want to pull up the plan?
Just before it does that, so basically it's the left side of your backyard. I'm looking at a photo with your patio there.
Yeah.
And it's the building behind it. That's what you built onto the house.
Correct.
And how about to the right of that? You did it always across the back?
No, it's just an addition straight off the back of my home.
Okay, but I see 2 things that could be additions. The one on the left with the sliding patio doors, and the one on the right with 2 windows.
That's the garage. So if you're looking at the back of the house, right. So if you're looking from a satellite view, looking at the back of the house, the one on the left is the addition. What you see on the right is the existing garage that is attached to the house that was there when I purchased the home.
Okay, so we're talking about the left side that you didn't get.
So yes, that is correct.
Mr. Scott, on the diagram we have, or at least I have, it shows 2 sheds in the back that are X'd out saying removed. There's still a 3rd one in the back.
Correct.
And then there's 2 that are shown at the end of the driveway. Is that
those are temporary plastic Rubbermaid containers. They can be taken down at will. They're not.
Which one?
Are not.
The one in the driveway?
Well, yes, they're Rubbermaids.
So are they considered sheds, Patrick?
How big are they?
They're 7 by 8 or 8 by 8, and both of them actually sit on the asphalt.
They sit on the driveway. They're negligible in our sense.
Yeah, they're on the asphalt. What is that? What's that big white trailer?
How about I pull up the picture as Patrick requested?
Yeah.
So we can all be viewing the same.
Okay.
Hey, Jay, while we're waiting, what are you paying taxes on? Everything?
Yeah, yes. To answer whoever's question that was a trailer. It was a camping travel trailer, but that's been moved and is permanently stored off site.
Oh, great. Okay.
It was back in that time, it was put there to load up to take a trip. It just makes it convenient.
And Jay, when did you do this construction? You said 2017?
No, so if you look where it says addition in red,
Right.
that section of patio was there. It was a smaller. I added to it. I added about a 10 by 12 section in 2012, 2011. But I did the roof line in 2018.
Okay.
And in the end of 2019, I finished the enclosure of that structure. And with the enclosure of that structure, the brick and the block patio were completed after the addition was finished.
So all your you're all up to speed with all your permits?
So I'm dealing with the building commission and going through all of the permits, but in order for me to begin with all of them, zoning has to take place. So I'm trying to make right with the zoning board prior so that I can appropriately permit all of the various pieces of this.
Okay. When was your house last assessed?
It was assessed. Oh geez, I don't want to. I don't know. It was recent. I can tell you that it was recently, and the one big thing in our neighborhood is our particular house being a split level, the bedroom in the attic and having a bathroom in the attic space is the factor that kind of had raised everybody's taxes and raised everybody's assessment. But that was done. I mean, I'm guessing around 2015, 16.
But it was included in the assessment, all your.
Yeah, when my home was assessed, it was assessed with that. Certainly it was assessed because we had the apartment, right? So the apartment has a kitchen in it and has another bathroom in it. And so that's all assessed.
Well, wait a minute. Is this a 2-family house now, Jay?
No, it is not. It is a 1-family home, and there is an egress between. So if you look where it says split, we just turned. If you look where it says,
sorry, I'll go back.
That's okay. Split level frame dwelling. Okay, you can see the garage is there, kind of butts out on the left. So where the letter R is in frame is a wall that separates the home from the garage. And just below there in that bottom corner, there's an egress doorway that's just a pass-through doorway from the in-law suite to the small downstairs like playroom.
If I can just jump in real quick to help this a little bit. So Mr. Scott in the past came in for a zoning permit for a conversion of the garage space into a living space, which is part of the single family home, which currently still exists today.
Correct.
Yep.
And are your parents or in-laws still living there?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just making sure that, and Patrick, that, hell, if he has all, he went and got permits, he's assessed and paying taxes on it, and I see where we are now. Oh, that's a nice shot. And I could see the houses surrounding you too from my aerial view here.
Yeah, and if you notice, 109 and 111, both, so they're on the south side of me. So to the left of me in this picture, but they already have the existing, Florida rooms built onto the house. And there's 14 of them in the neighborhood like that.
Yeah, 109 looks like a large footprint there, yeah.
Yeah.
You put that roof, right, they have the open patio, you just put the roof over it and then you blocked it up, right? Yep.
Yeah.
You have, I didn't look, you have gutters on that,
I do.
Yep, okay, great.
And yeah, I mean, it runs off the stone. This picture doesn't indicate it, but to the bottom where that patio umbrella is, this area has river stone in it and it drains away from the house. I can tell you that having been in the home since Hurricane Sandy, but Hurricane Irene, we had Hillsborough Search and Rescue drive down Dukes Parkway, which is it's the road that brings you to Walmart, if you're familiar. We're on the north side of town, but we had boats that were driving down Dukes Parkway east, and none of the rainwater flooded any part of my yard, flooded any part of my home. You know, it went way up high on Dukes Parkway, but it never came up, you know, anywhere close to my house. And
Where's your runoff? Toward the woods?
yes,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Have any of your neighbors complained about runoff from your property?
No, ma'am. And like I was instructed, I was like 23 letters. And we have the benefit now of having sent them twice, because I made a mistake for the previous board meeting and I didn't get the beacon advertisement out in time, but I did get the mailer, or the mailers weren't 10 days before. I think they were like 6 days before the meeting. So I sent those out, and so we had to, you know, have a second meeting, which is okay. And now we've sent the beacon ad and the mailers out at the appropriate time. So all of my neighbors are very well aware.
No.
They said the only thing between you and getting your building permits and inspections is the zoning.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any more questions.
I don't either, Frank. Questions from the public?
Yeah, okay, so Fred, open it up to the public for any questions.
Sure. Anybody from the public have any questions for this witness in this application?
We only have it open. Any comment too?
Yeah, any comments as well, because I think there's no other witnesses.
Okay.
I see none, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Close it back up. Okay, board members.
Well, you know, Jay, we're nice guys on the board, don't you think?
I do.
Easier than you think.
I know how this looks. I'm here to take my penance,
Punishment?
and I want to do things right.
No, and I
Well,
understand that.
Mr. Scott, there are some exceptions about, you know, nice people on the board, but however, continue, Mr. Stamler.
Right. No, you seem like a nice guy, even though things were done incorrectly and all, as long as Patrick, you said all the, you know, you're going through the right moves by getting all the permits done, you're paying your taxes on all this. For the other board members, I think it's a good application as long as.
John, let me just stop you, okay, because I forgot to close public. So now that public is closed, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll continue. But I move to approve this application.
Is there a second?
And I agree. I'll second it. I think it's been, you know, an honest mistake, and let's correct it. And so he can get things approved.
Any more board discussion on that?
Yeah, so essentially the approval would be for the addition and patio, the other impervious surfaces on the property up to that 21% level as part on the submitted plan.
As requested.
As requested, correct.
All right, that answered one of my questions. Mr. Gorman, 21% is what you feel is necessary to accommodate Mr. Scott's request.
Yeah, so the applicant has provided the updated survey with the percentage on the plan, and that's my recommendation is to approve that percentage.
Two things which I have noted as potential.
I'm sorry, 22.3%, if you want to be technical.
22.3, well,
Yeah, let's get it right.
Yeah.
Were approved at 21, they couldn't do 22.3. All right, two things which were raised, which could be conditions. One is the question of whether this should be there should be a specific restriction that the house be used only for single family use. And the other is the general question about the several sheds, two which apparently have been removed, but three others that seem to exist on the property. And there's also something indicated as concrete, which is, I presume, considered impervious coverage, but there hasn't been any indication of exactly what that is.
Mr. Anderson, real quick. So going back, and I was going back into my notes, the 22.3% on the plan represented the impervious coverage on the lot without the removal of the sheds. With the removal of the sheds, it goes down to 21.4%. Correct, Mr. Scott? Mr. Scott?
That's correct. We did that because.
Yep.
That's what I've got.
Because it was a good thing to do.
Sorry for the mistake.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't sure how fast we could get them removed, but we did get them removed. And I have not been able to get the concrete removed off the property for that slab. So that was included in part of the impervious. Now, the two sheds that are on the asphalt, they're temporary structures. They're like Legos. You push them together.
They wouldn't count.
They don't count
and
anyway.
they're sitting on the asphalt anyway.
You're fine.
Yeah, they don't count. But so we're talking 21.4.
Four.
Yeah.
And Mark had something else to say, I think. No?
No, the other question I raised is there was a representation that this was strictly single family use.
Yes.
Something the board might want to include as a condition.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. That's very good. So yes, I move to vote this with the condition that it's used as a single family use, and the removal of the sheds, which were done already, and the 21.4%.
Right, and I second that.
And Chicky second.
Okay, Tina, would you take a roll call, please?
Okay, Scott, okay. Mr. Herbert?
Yes.
Mr. Samler?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Zerachi?
Yes.
Mr. Valchek?
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher?
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6, and Mr. Vincher?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, down to our last application tonight, and thank you for your Jitendra and Rocky Kothari, is it? File BA 2010. Okay, Patrick, would you introduce that, please?
Final application tonight is Kahari, file number BA 20-10, located at block 207.02, lot 60, otherwise known as 12 Steeple Drive. The applicant is seeking a C bulk variance for relief to retain an existing walkway and patio adjacent to the dwelling and the constructed in-ground pool with an additional 1,380 square foot walkway and patio located in the RA residential agricultural zone. Time of decision 1/31/21.
Kothari, good evening.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
I see you're representing yourself, is that right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'll ask Tina to swear you in.
Yes.
Are both going to give comments or testify?
Yeah.
Okay, we can certainly swear you both in at the same time.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so tell us what you want to do.
All right.
This is our first time. We've never done this.
Little bit nervous, but we'll do our best as we were just listening to the other applicant. We are the original owner of our property located at 12 Steeple Drive, known as block 207.02, lot 60, as Mr. Gorman said that. The current zoning is RA. We have a 1 acre lot, and RA, that being said, I believe it allows 10% impervious coverage. And our current impervious coverage is 12.1%. And we're seeking for additional 3.26% for building a new in-ground pool and surrounding the walkway and the patio. So from the 10-point allowance, 10% allowance, we're seeking for additional 5.26%.
Chairman, this is Fred. Do you want me to share their slides that they've presented to the board? Would that be helpful?
Yes, please.
Oh, the other thing is we have informed all the neighbors that we have received from the township, and it was also published in the Courier Post.
Courier News.
Courier News, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm originally from South Jersey and of the Courier Post.
We were in South Jersey before this.
Okay, so maybe you just want to tell us with the picture that's up there, what's, you know, with what's going on.
All right.
Able to see the your site layout.
All right, so this is our existing building.
Okay.
And this is the existing patio.
Mhm.
And this is the proposed pool and the walkway around the pool.
So so I see the pool. What's the new concrete that you're laying down? Just around the pool?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't look like that much. Nice. You're only increasing your impervious by just a little over 3%. Yeah, required 12% existing.
Existing was 12.1. Well, when was your house built, Mr. Cathari?
1996.
Okay, and at the time, did you have a gravel driveway?
Yes.
Okay, so that would explain why you paved it now, or you didn't?
I'm sorry?
No, we paid it back in 90s.
Yeah, when we moved in. Yeah, 96.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, originally, it wasn't even over the top because it was a gravel driveway at 50%.
Gravel driveway.
Well, wait a minute, was it paved by the developer that you bought it from, the house from?
Who paved the driveway?
Who paved the driveway?
I think it was done by the builder.
But it was, okay, so it was paved when you moved in.
Okay, so the builder actually pushed it up now. Okay.
Well, yeah, and it was approved by the planning board that way?
You want me to guess?
No, I don't.
I'm familiar with that development, okay, and people were just paving driveways for the heck of it back then. They didn't think of it.
This, and you know, by looking at the plans and all, the concrete's down to a pretty good minimum.
Yeah.
The pool's in there. I don't have a problem with this application at all.
Hey,
Do you have anything? You want some signs?
Okay, so questions.
I'm thinking about it.
Have any questions for the applicant? Bob, you
Just real quick, Mr. Cathari, in accordance with my January 6th, 2021 letter, what kind of lighting is going to be proposed? Is it just going to be lighting mounted on the house to illuminate the pool?
Yeah, just around, residential lighting.
Okay, and then
landscaping.
Any kind of residential landscaping?
Yes.
And any of the grading is not going to impact any of your neighbors with runoff or anything?
No, because it's sloping towards the Davenport Way.
Okay, perfect.
And
Thank you very much.
And you have landscaping lights, no spotlights that are going to hit the neighbor's house, correct?
No, no.
Okay.
It's just if I'm reading the plan here right, and I'm also looking at the satellite view, as I know John likes to do as well. The front of your house actually faces Davenport Way, right? It's
Yes. The front of the house is Davenport Way, right?
Okay, so the pool will be on your side yard to the, what direction am I facing? To the north, right?
That's the only place for it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was reading it right. I was confused by the streets, yeah.
We don't have anything else, Frank. Next.
Okay, Patrick, do you have any?
Yeah, just a couple things. So if the board were to approve the application, it would be for the pool, walkway, the patio, and all the other impervious coverages as part of this application. The property is in the RA zone. The minimum acreage is 2 acres. This property is a 1 acre. It was in the Staple Chase development, which is not a core consent development.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Frank?
Okay, I open for public.
Okay. Anyone from the public have any questions for this witness or comments on this application? Seeing none, Chairman, I think you can close it.
Okay, public closed. So, board discussion, board motion.
I think it's a good application. Don't see any issues. I want to move to approve this application as stated.
And conditions.
Does the board have a desire to require the grading plan to be approved by the engineer?
Sure, we'll add that in there.
We do have an engineer.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, so do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I hear any further discussion on it? Hearing none, Tina, would you take the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Herbert. Mr. Stemler,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Sirachi,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Wallmarker,
Yes.
Mr. Vincher.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey.
Good luck, guys.
Look with your
Thank for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Have a good
that's the last
Good night.
application we have tonight. The next meeting is February 3rd. Patrick, can you just tell us again what's coming up? You said that we have 4. ready.
Yeah, 4 homeowner applications, plus and we'll finish up.
Patrick, can you give us the names and can you get us the paperwork on those?
Yeah. Are they all ready to go, Patrick?
Yeah, we need to finish up the reports and we'll have them out for you guys within that 10-day limit.
Okay, what are the names? Because in your report, you said several were waiting for approval from your office.
Yeah, so they're all pretty ready to go. So we have Monaco, Zero News Center LLC, Mr. Paul Oram, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize. Matrielli.
And plus, wait a minute, we added.
And Vasaloff.
Yeah.
They're all.
Okay, and they have 2 weeks, so you'll know by Friday if they get their notices in, is that correct?
Well, yeah, we should know at that point.
Can I throw my 2 cents in here?
Yeah.
Second, the paperwork that I received says in 2003, it was Rudy Bershnick that was putting the double wide on that piece of property. And that's where it said no pool should be involved in this.
Right.
They're still in town, as a matter of fact. My kids are friends with Clarence Bershnick. Now, I know Rudy is deceased. He passed away of a heart attack, but the wife is still around. Is it like totally impossible to just ask her?
Well, that'd be up to our attorney, right? So.
Yeah, but I don't, they were the owner, they were the applicant, so I think we need the board discussion, Kelly. Unless, and I don't know if it's Laura, right?
I don't
Laura
know.
Bershnick?
Yeah, I think you're right, Chicky. Yes, Clarence.
Okay, but I think what we need is the official transcript record.
Oh, yeah, sure. But it doesn't hurt to ask questions.
Yeah.
No.
Kelly, just so you're aware, though, that we're not allowed to discuss these things outside of the open meeting like now. So you couldn't talk to her about it, You
Okay.
want to help, it'd be.
Nope, I get it. Just
But Patrick could, an official could.
Patrick
You can ask questions though, right, Frank?
Nothing that doesn't happen in public. That's the sunshine law.
No, but Patrick could, or a township official could.
Right, Patrick could.
But again, I think we want a transcript.
Absolutely.
Would definitely be the.
I don't think we'll have a transcript for that application. If it went, I'd be surprised if we did. I'm not sure if the board even back then took a transcripts for every application.
No, Frank Valchek's probably was on that board at the time. He's been on this board since it was created, I think.
I believe Mr. Valchek had been on for a couple of decades at that point.
Right. He actually knew Hoover that you were talking about.
Frank, you should be able, Dennis, you should be able to mute John. It's that time of the night.
Hey, Frank Valchek, how many years? Do you know how many years you've been on?
I have no idea.
How many?
I have no idea.
Neither does John know how many he's been on.
I know it. I already talked to a couple of mayors. I said, find out how many years he has. I go, we have to have a celebration.
I'm trying to beat Walter's record.
Yeah.
Oh God, Walter.
Okay, folks, so it's 10:01. We ran out of time. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you next month.
You got 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe the.
Oh, that's right. I gotta get
Right.
transcripts done. Oh.
Hopefully the nice Tina shows up again.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.